Welcome back to the Thermo Diet Podcast. I'm your host, Jayton Miller, and I wanted to start off the episode today with another preface. The audio is not going to be as high quality as it usually is. We are still currently working remote, but this is going to be a very good episode today. I have Mr. Jake Miner on the podcast, and he's going to talk to us about how he's implemented Thermo into the lives of his kids. So all of you Thermo parents out there, I hope that y'all get some cool tips and tricks in this one. And I hope y'all enjoy it. Welcome back to the Thermo Diet Podcast. I'm your host, Jayton Miller, and today I have Mr. Jake Miner on the podcast. How you doing today, Jake?
Doing well, Jayden. How's it going?
Doing well. So again, the quality of this podcast, as far as the sound and the video goes, might not be up to par to the previous podcast as we're doing it remote still. But I think we're going to put a lot of valuable information out there today. So I'm looking forward to being able to hit it off with Jake. So today we're going to talk a little bit about kids and Thermo and how we can incorporate Thermo into their lives, and some of the tips and tricks that Jake's learned along the way. So how old were your kids whenever you started getting them on Thermo?
So I've been Thermo for about 4 years, and my son was 2 at that time, and my daughter was 8. So now after 4 years of me cramming Thermo into their brain, they're definitely second generation Thermo warriors.
Heck yeah. So can you kind of go into what it was like for your kids before Thermo and kind of what it's like now?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest difference how things were before I found Christopher Walker and all his work and the Thermo diet is, how my level of health or the state of health I was in impacted, my life, my kids' life, and everything like that. So before you do find Thermo, or when you are looking, you're most of the time you're in that stress state, whether it's, gut health, hair loss, sleep, financial issues, whatnot. So this definitely has an impact on, your parenting, your kids' lives, and the way your kids eat definitely have an impact on their health, their lives, their schooling, sports, things like that. So where I was in a super complete estrogen dominant state of health. So I was stressed out all the time, poor sleep, etc. Those of you who follow me kind of know my story. And this had an impact on your kids. When you pick your kids up from school and it's time to do 3 hours of homework and you're in a stressed state of health, that can have a negative effect on your kids' schooling. And so can your kids eating polyunsaturated fats every day. So I guess as my health went from one side of the spectrum to the other, my kids weren't in such a bad place as I was, but they're still eating PUFAs and all the wrong things. So this is going to negatively impact your kids' everyday life. So as I went from one end of the spectrum, so did they.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. So what are kind of some of the things that you do? I know a lot of people, they don't want to be too rigid with their kids because a lot of times, they might go to birthday parties or over to friends' houses and stuff like that. Is that something that you kind of think about sometimes?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the kids, you can't cram into their head, hey, don't do this, don't do that, or naturally kids are going to rebel, right? So one thing I did with my kids is when I completely memorized the course and how to implement Thermo into my life, I slowly, educated them. My daughter wasn't old enough to be like, hey, sit down and watch this polyunsaturated fats video. So, once my daughter had more of an understanding of Thermo, when she does go to a party or whatnot, and let's say they're doing fried fish on the porch and cake and ice cream and it's inside the house, she will definitely avoid the fried fish because she knows what a polyunsaturated fat is. She knows it has a double carbon bond, and she's going to avoid it, and this is one thing you definitely want to bring up to your kids, talk to them about it, educate them, but you also have to remember not to force something and drill it into their head where the point where naturally a kid is going to rebel. So ease it in slowly, things like that. Show them the video, show them the diet. Another thing that I think really helped with me and my kids is getting them involved in the lifestyle. For example, many of you guys follow me on the Thermo Diet group. I do a lot of thermo shopping. So in a lot of the pictures, you see my son in the background with the big peace sign, cheesing ear to ear because he's a thermo warrior. But I got them involved in shopping. I showed them all the ingredients list. As I talked about before, we're going from one end of the spectrum to the other, and you're bringing your kids along with you. So you're teaching them how to look at, ingredients list, why seeds, nuts, and grains are bad, that kind of stuff. And as time went on, I noticed even my son, he's 6 years old now, but if we drive by McDonald's, he's like, Dad, there's where you fry fries in the PUFAs. My son's 6 years old and he knows. So we'll go to the Whole Foods Co-op, and at first we just started, I started educating them on how I eat, why I do it, why nuts are bad. So now my son at 6 years old can go through the whole Whole Foods Co-op from one end to another and shop better and more healthy than a regular adult male in America. It's unbelievable. So definitely a good thing for the kids to get them involved. Another thing that I guess really helped getting my kids involved and keeping them interested in thermo is, a lot of you guys know I love to cook. I'm an amazing cook. I do these big extravagant meals every single day. I grew up in a family where my mother is a great cook. My father is a great cook. It doesn't matter if it's cooking, baking, frying, smoking, grilling. My whole family cooks huge meals, and it definitely, you guys can see that in my posts. So to keep my kids involved, I get them involved in cooking. How fun is it to get in the kitchen with Dad on a stool, when you're 6 years old, and whip up the pancake mix, throw in the zoo collagen, some blueberries, some dark chocolate, and do thermal pancakes with the kids. That's another good thermal tip for all you mom and dads out there that are, having a hard time getting your kids involved in thermal. Get them in the kitchen, have them cook with you, make it fun, and if you have to throw a little pancake batter on their face, let them get the kitchen dirty. But remember, in the end, they're eating, pure thermal foods, thermal pancakes, things like that. That is a great tip. Always remember to keep your kids involved in what you're doing, whether it's, activities outside, things like that, cooking. Another interesting thing I would look into is, so with all the pandemic going on right now, kids are doing a lot of virtual school. And one thing I want to bring up to you guys is my son had an assignment the other day, and it was geared more towards like the gym class part of it. And they were doing deep breathing exercises on a link on YouTube. And I'm thinking, man, what thermal activation for the kids at home doing virtual school. It's amazing.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. It's definitely going to give your kids a hand up in science class whenever they're learning about PUFAs and stuff like that already.
Oh,
It's going to be
yeah,
sweet.
definitely a quick side note now that you said that. So my daughter's 12 years old now, like I said, and she's in 7th grade. So a couple years ago at her elementary school, and this is when I was diving super, super hard into thermal, 100% thermal for 6-8 months at a time. A nutritionist came to my daughter's class, right? And right away, my daughter, the night before, my daughter's like, Dad, there's a nutritionist coming to my class tomorrow. And I was like, well, it's going to be a rude awakening if you tell them about thermal. So right away, the nutritionist goes into how good legumes and beans are for you, how good seeds, grains, and nuts are good for you. And then she went into how vegetable oils are heart healthy, and help you with cancer. And my daughter raised her hand and completely grilled her with the thermal lifestyles. Unreal. There was like an awkward 2-minute silence where my daughter at this time was 10 years old and she's grilling her nutritionist at school. Just an amazing story and another win for thermal, definitely.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. So how do you usually incorporate? So you got the food,
Yeah.
do you think it relatively easy to feed your kids?
Yeah, another tip for the parents out there that are trying, to add in the thermal meals to their kids' diet. So a really good tip is get an overabundance of different kinds of foods. And as you supply them with this overabundance, naturally, I watched my daughter and my son pick the thermal foods that they liked, and then as it went on, I kept, keeping notes, mental notes. Hey, they like this, they like this, they like this. So when you keep supplying that overabundance, as time goes on, you actually have a whole idea of what they like. So now we're at the point, let's say my daughter's at her grandma's for the day and I'm going to do a thermal re-up at the Whole Foods Co-op. I'll just call my daughter up, be like, hey, what kind of foods you want? She picks 12 foods that she loves that are completely thermal that I can add into her diet. This is the same thing with my son. When we go to the when we go to the Whole Foods Co-op, my son can weave around there and he knows exactly where his stuff is that he wants. And then another good tip too is, as you get this overabundance and they pick what they want, always try new things. If you see somebody on the thermal group post something new that you haven't seen before, next time you go on your run with your kids, have them try it. Always try to add new things, new recipes, gelatin gummies, hot chocolate at night, things like that. And the more you try and the more you have that overabundance of a supply of thermal foods, the more your kids are going to like it. So if you're sitting there and you only got one meal you're sticking to all day long, all week long, that's not going to be a good thing for your kids, to say, hey, I want to do this every single day. So a very important thing is get that overabundance of all kinds of thermal foods for your kids to try.
Definitely. Do you think that's one of the keys to deal with some of the picky eaters out there?
Yes, absolutely. When you go along in life, you say, hey, I can't sit and do shrimp and potatoes every day. Well, then you got to have a variety. You're definitely going to find, something you like, but just keep trying. Refer to the UMZU blog with the Thermo Foods. If you click on my name in the Thermo Diet group, I have over 1,000 food posts. So there's a big variety. I have things on there for, Thanksgiving dinners, holiday dinners, snacks during the day, things like that. Just try as much things as you can. And if any of you guys are out there and you're on the thermal group and you're wondering what you should do for your kids for lunch tomorrow or snacks, you can definitely reach out to me, and I'm definitely there to help.
Heck yeah. So what are kind of some of the go-to things that your kids are going to like this every single time, no matter what?
Yeah, one of my daughter's favorite, she's more of a seafood person. So she loves, all kids love French fries, right? So I make a lot of Yukon Gold potatoes. 4 or 5 days a week, there's Yukon Gold French fries in my house. So my daughter's more of a seafood person and not a steak person. So I'll do shrimp a couple days a week. I'll throw in the cod a couple days a week. One of her favorite thermal snacks is, like I talked about before, supplying that overabundance. One thing I found my daughter really likes is kiwis. So I'll get the little 8 packs of kiwis, twice a week, I'll get 2 8 packs. And 4 or 5 days a week, she's doing the kiwis and a little bit of cheese to help with that blood sugar regulation. And then another thing, I guess, with my son, he loves chocolate milk. So what we do is we'll do the Organic Valley milk. We'll do a little bit of raw cacao. He'll add a little bit of cane sugar in there, maybe a dash of maple syrup. And this is one of his go-tos. It's funny when you think about like traditional breakfast, cereal, things like that are just garbage. And you think about when you have that overabundance of food for your kids and they're snacking all day, they're getting their blood sugar regulation. They're getting in very good thermal foods all the time. And I think there's a huge difference between, there's some families out there that are like, hey, you can't eat till dinner's in 4 hours, and you're going to make this big, terrible meal that's not good for your kids. Or you have this overabundance of thermal foods in your house, and they're eating every couple of hours. They're optimizing their health, they're optimizing their thyroid, they're optimizing their liver function, and they're optimizing their blood sugar. So definitely, my son is a big milk and sugar person. So am I. I notice with my son more, everything that I like that's thermal, he likes too. So I'm big coffee, milk, and sugar in the morning. My son's a big fan of the Boulder, Colorado plain potato chips. He loves it. He loves it. My son is a little thermal machine. He even loves the bone broth. Another one of his favorites is it's also one of my favorites, is Haagen-Dazs ice cream before bed, the big scoop of Zoo Collagen. That's arguably my favorite and his favorite thermal food is vanilla bean ice cream and a scoop of Zoo Collagen.
Heck
Definitely.
yeah, that's awesome. Whenever we get you some of that chocolate zoo collagen, it's going to be a game changer whenever it comes to that chocolate
Yeah,
milk.
definitely be on the lookout for some more ingredients for the Thermal Warrior Chef Jake Miner. The thermal bars are coming out soon. I'm going to make all kinds of ingredients with that. I can't wait to do, baked thermal bars in the oven on top of a huge scoop of vanilla bean ice cream, hot right out of the oven. It's going to be unbelievable.
Oh
So
yeah,
stay tuned for that, definitely.
heck yeah. Um, it's interesting that you talk about making sure that your kids have an abundance of food. There's actually studies that show that the height of the children, like the potential that they have to be a certain height, isn't directly hereditary. Like it's actually highly correlated to the amount of nutrition that a kid has fairly early on in life. And then the epigenetic expression that occurs from that actually allows them to reach their height potential. Um, so your son's probably going to be like 6 foot, 200 pounds, just solid muscle. He's going to be a beast.
Yes, I can't wait to see how my son develops. It's funny that you say that on Georgia Dinkoff's podcast a couple months ago. He's from Bolivia and so is his wife, and they're very short, around the 5 feet mark. And their kids are bioenergetically, gifted with the life to eat thermal foods every day. And a dad like Georgia Dinkoff, well, he talks about how his daughter and son are both in the 140 percentile for height. And Georgie's his wife's not even 5 feet tall, and they're going to be just like you said, like my son is going to be massive. And then this is going to play a big role, in their development through puberty, things like that. Some other things I noticed with my children, before thermo and now, is their creativity. Some of the things my son talks about, his imagination, some little crafts he makes, and art just absolutely blow my mind. And this can really attest to, living a thermal lifestyle. The higher your metabolic rate is, the better your health is, the better your brain's going to develop, especially when it comes to that creativity part of your brain.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. So, how do you kind of incorporate some of the thermo activities into their lives? So, how do you make sure they get some exercise and get outside, get some sunshine and stuff like that?
Yeah. One thing my kids like to do with me is we like, you talked about in the post the other day about going places and seeing new things. A lot of people with this lockdown are kind of stuck in their house, and I'm the exact opposite. So I'm going on, ferry rides, boat rides, taking my kids on certain vacations to see this kind of thing. We love going on hikes in the woods. We love doing long hikes, along the water, things like that. And if you don't have things like that available to you, I definitely like to just get outside and do walks with the kids, even just a game of catch to keep them active during the pandemic outside is a great thing. But no, my kids love being outside. They love seeing new places. They love swimming. Another thing, the pandemic's going on right now, but another thing maybe you guys don't know about me, but this is my 9th season coaching youth sports. So for the YMCA. So every season that switches, I'm coaching the next thing, whether it's football, basketball, volleyball, girls and guys. So my daughter's 12 now and she's into sports in the middle school, but my son's 6. So now I'm doing all the sports with them. They're not currently not doing it right now, but definitely get your kids involved. And then another thing I like to do when we had the first lockdown in March around here, we're doing a lot of workouts outside. So I just got the kids involved in workouts. My kids are both young, so I think it's a good idea, to at least do some body weight, workouts with the kids to keep them active, things like that.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Um, so, do you notice that before thermo to now that your kids tend to replicate the things that you do?
Yes, absolutely. Uh, so the biggest thing I see them replicate actually is, it kind of sounds funny, but preaching the thermo diet. Like my daughter, for example, when she goes somewhere, I don't know if I would assume that you're the same way as I am when you go somewhere. It's hard not to talk about health, right? We're really into the bioenergetic health world and the thermo diet. I actually noticed my daughter schooling her friends, our cousins when we go here and there. And I definitely see her doing that. Another thing that my daughter brought up to me recently, which was pretty cool, is she's like, Dad, when can I start coming to the gym and training with you? Which is awesome. I can't wait to have my son and my daughter in the gym, but just to know that she wants to come to the gym, to learn what I can teach her about the workout side of this world we live. She already is, almost an expert at 12 years old on the thermo diet. But yeah, definitely. Another thing that I've noticed since we went from one end of the spectrum to the other, me more, is, when you are dealing with this huge stress, this huge burden on your life, and you can't solve it. And then once you fix it and you get on that other side of the spectrum, I think one of the biggest things that I noticed, is your experience with everything is completely different. For example, when I was in this stress state and I couldn't sleep, I'm mad estrogen dominant, shrunken testicles. I had estrogen buildup of lumps in my chest. Well, when you go to your parents' house on a Saturday morning for a conversation, it's not a good conversation. You're stressed out. All you can focus on is, more stress. Like, it's not a good experience. It's completely stress. So now when I go to my parents' house for that Saturday morning coffee, I look over and my dad's got a line of Umzu supplements on the rack. In the cupboards, he's got vitamin A, D, K, E. He's got a red light. He's got a blue light. There's a giant Berkey water filter. And when we go out for that conversation, it's awesome. It's positive. The whole complete vibe is different, and then when you're in that stress state, like I talked about, and you're sitting there in the house, cooking dinner, and you're looking outside and you see your children playing, you're still in that mental state of stress. And now when I watch my kids outside playing and laughing, it's an unbelievable feeling, because I didn't experience things like that before, when I was in this complete stress state, because that's all you're concentrated on. Your focus is on, hey, I'm stressed out. How do I fix this? What do I do? It's not about, hey man, my daughter and my son are in the yard. They're playing, they're smiling. This is amazing. It wasn't like that. And I noticed about a year after starting Thermo that my experiences started being like that. Even if it's, like you said, what do you do to keep your kids active? Just going on a walk around the block, listening to your son talk about his day at school. It's unbelievable. It's so enjoyable compared to when you're in the stress state to when you're in the thermal state. It's a complete difference.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So I feel like one challenge that we have today, especially, is pulling the kids away from the technology and actually getting them outside and getting them to do different things. Do you kind of have that challenge?
Yeah, it's hard with the pandemic going on. Normally, I guess you could say before Thermo, I was big into TV and this and that. Now, to be honest, I don't even watch TV. I'm not a fan of the news. So recently, because of the pandemic, I just bought a four-wheeler. So now I'm taking the kids on four-wheeler rides, and if you put a plow on it in my city, you can ride anywhere. So this is just one way to get around. Hey, get off the stuff. Let's go outside. We'll take the four-wheeler to the park. We'll go on a hike after that. But yeah, it's definitely a challenge. That's why I talk about getting the kids involved in shopping. I like that. Getting them in the kitchen. Some of the meals that I make are 2-hour meals. So if you get them in the kitchen, cracking the eggs, mixing the ingredients, this and that, it's a good way to get them away from things like stuck on your laptop or stuck on this. Definitely. I'm a big fan of keeping my kids active. If it is a Sunday and we're just sitting there and everybody's zoned into their electronics, we'll definitely go somewhere. We'll go for a walk on the lake. We'll go fishing, things like that. Just anything that we can do outside or keep them active away from your electronics consistently is a good idea.
Heck yeah. So, do you give your kids any kinds of supplements or any things like that?
Yeah. When it comes to supplementation with the kiddos, I just stick to obviously bone broth. We can argue that's a food or a supplement, but that's definitely nature's multivitamin. If you guys are on here and you're watching and you're wondering about, hey, what multivitamin should I get? Well, the multivitamin you should get is zoo broth. If you looked at the nutrient profile of our zoo broth, it's unbelievable. It's 20 times any kind of cheap multivitamin you're going to get over the counter. So my son's a big fan of the zoo broth. Like I said, my daughter also likes the zoo collagen. If we do it, she's more of like a smoothie zoo collagen person, and me and my son are more of like a ice cream and zoo collagen. Another thing too, if my son's 6 and my daughter's 12, if they do go somewhere and they're exposed to eating, let's say PUFAs or some kind of meal they thought PUFAs are in, I definitely will give them some vitamin E. Definitely. So I don't give them much, but definitely bone broth, collagen, and vitamin E, just to help with the damage you're dealing with when you do have bad foods. To help with that cellular health. Definitely, vitamin E is a good idea.
Heck yeah. Um, I would also toss in there like maybe some of those liver bites, like those epic liver bites that you toss in there. I would consider that kind of like a supplemental food to a certain extent.
Yep, that's definitely a good idea. I do the liver bites a lot. I actually do a pack on Monday and a pack on Friday right now. Because it's mixed in with beef. So you're getting a good amount if you do twice a week. But yeah, definitely, that's a good idea. Both my kids love beef jerky, and the epic liver bites definitely just taste like a spicy beef jerky.
Heck yeah. That's awesome. I still haven't tried them yet. I need to order some and try it out.
Yeah, yeah, you got to get on it, brother.
Yeah. Um, so do you think, looking back to whenever you your kids were still in their mama's belly, is there anything that you would kind of do differently in that regard?
Yeah, when it comes to pregnancy, incorporating the thermo diet is definitely a good idea. So, back in the day when my kids were in their mom's womb, we ate PUFAs every day. We pounded them in, fried food, Chinese food, wings, fried wings every single day. We did that a lot. I would definitely incorporate thermo into your lifestyle for all the moms watching. Get on the thermo train. Another thing too that's important, I would definitely pay attention to like blood sugar. Are you eating enough? Remember, you're eating for two. And a lot of moms I see out there like, oh, I don't want to gain weight, but I think when you're eating for two and you're eating every couple hours and you're eating healthy, weight gain is something that I wouldn't worry about when you are pregnant. Another thing I'm not a fan of so some formulas, are not some, all formulas are most have DHEA, polyunsaturated fats, that kind of thing in it. So I would definitely push breastfeeding even more. I was clueless about all that stuff. That's huge. That's one of the most beneficial things for a child to consume that exists is there's mother's breast milk. Also, I would have had them get in some zoo broth every day, collagen every single day, getting in a very good gelatinous source of, food. And then something that I would have done, not medical advice, but I would have really worked on, keeping that blood flow. I would have had her on redwood definitely. So, when you're increasing your blood flow, nutrient, oxygen delivery, and you got another baby inside you, that's so beneficial. So I definitely would have done that. And I would have definitely had her on A, D, K, and E every single day. Yeah, I just would have based it more on the thermal lifestyle, definitely. Sleep's another good one, keeping low stress, that kind of stuff.
Definitely. Do you actually notice that your kids sleep a little bit better now than they did before?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's a funny story. So last weekend, my son, hey, Dad, can I sleep downstairs? I'm like, it's a little colder downstairs than it is upstairs. He's like, Dad, don't worry about it. So it's probably like 58 degrees, and I go downstairs the next morning, and my son's passed out, blankets off, and he's just, got shorts on, and he's not even cold. So this little thermal warrior, dude, like, it's freezing down here, and I feel his skin, and he is so hot. I'm just thinking, man, this little thermal warrior, dude, I can't wait to see who he develops into, because it's going to be amazing. Everybody better look out.
Heck yeah, definitely. Well, um, kind of wrapping it up here, is there anything that you would what are the top tips that you'd give a parent right now if they're trying to get their kids into thermo?
Yeah, so the top tips, what I talked about earlier, make thermal fun, be creative with it. if you have to get in there and make cool thermo cookies, gelatin gummies, do like the pancakes and cupcakes and stuff like I talked about. Make it fun. Like I talked about earlier, get that overabundance. If you're strictly eating thermo and you're doing the same meal every day, that's gonna be hard to get your kid involved. So get the overabundance of food. And then, like I said too, don't be aggressive when you're pushing thermo on your kids. Slowly show them a couple things, and then when they learn that couple things, go to the next couple things and go to the next couple things. Because like I said earlier, with children, you're going to push something on them and then they're going to rebel. So slowly do it, get them involved, make them happy, make it fun. And definitely, look to the Thermo Diet if you need some more groups, the Thermo Chef book if you need some recipes. Also, remember, check on the Jake Miner page and the other members. They have amazing recipes, amazing foods on there. So if you're stumped and you don't know what to do with your kid on Friday night for dinner, go through the Thermo Diet photos and try it. Definitely.
Heck yeah. Well, Jake, I appreciate you hopping on here. I think people are going to love this episode. So I'm really excited to see what they get into.
Heck yeah. Thanks for having me, Jayton. And I hope all you thermal parents out there love this episode, because I'm going to love it, man. I can't wait to get off and watch it again. So chalk it up for Thermo and the Thermo parents. All you guys on the Thermo Diet course involved in everything that are killing it. Kudos to you guys, and thanks for doing your thing and spreading the word about the Thermo Diet.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below if you want us to cover a different topic.